Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing well. If you are new here, my name is Nishitha. Please take a moment to hit the subscribe button and also give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Today I'm going to do a review and wear test of the new SMASHBOX Studio Skin Full Coverage 24-hour foundation. To be honest, I was not going to do a review on this, but then I saw Tati here on YouTube rave about this foundation. So I thought, why not give it a try? Because, a good natural looking full coverage foundation is something we all could use, especially when you want to cover all the discoloration and go full glam. So we'll see if this foundation is any good. So the foundation comes in a tube packaging. I actually prefer packagings like these because, they're easy to travel with, because, if it's a glass, then there are chances that you might break it. So this foundation comes in a total of 40 different shades, and I got the shade 3.05, which seems to have a warm golden undertone, and it's for medium skin types. So let's see what this foundation claims to do. It's a weightless 24-hour full coverage foundation with oil and shine control that is also waterproof, sweat resistant, and won't look cakey or cause blemishes. The finish is supposed to be matte, and they say it's supposed to be for all skin types, normal, combination, oil, and even dry skin types. So we'll see about that. And it has hyaluronic acid and bamboo powder, which is going to control oil and shine. So let's see, does this have perfume in it? At least in the ingredients, I don't see any kind of perfume listed. So that's good. I don't like fragrance in foundation. So let's swatch this and feel the consistency of it. So I can tell right away that it's a completely matte foundation, and it also dries down pretty quickly. The shade might look a little bit light than my skin tone, but one thing that I noticed right away in the store itself is that as soon as you swatch it, the foundation, oxidizes to a shade deeper. So that's the reason I picked this shade, and it's not like I had a choice. This is the only shade that even comes close. So we have to work with this. So I'm going to start applying this to my skin. I'm going to work sections by sections just because, this foundation dries down really fast. And then use my beauty blender to blend it out. I can tell that this foundation is not that easy to blend out. I took my time blending it out, even though, I'm working sections by sections. So make sure you don't, dot it all over your face and then start blending out. You would have to work really hard to get this foundation to blend on your skin. And the coverage is definitely good. It is a full coverage foundation. I can see that, it has covered all of my blemishes really well. As of now, it feels really lightweight on my skin. I don't feel like I have anything on, even though, it felt like a really thick foundation. So let's move on to this side. I want to see how it blends out with a brush because, with a beauty blender, it's not the easiest foundation that I've ever worked with. So let's see if I can, blend it easier with a brush. Where did my brush go? Yeah, it's here. Okay. So it was a little bit faster with the brush, but this foundation is difficult to blend out. I prefer the beauty blender with this foundation because, the side feels and even looks a little bit more hydrated when compared to the side where I used a brush. So I just want to go over with my beauty blender just so that I have some hydration on this side, because right now it feels a little bit drying. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm gonna do brand new swatch right next to the old swatch so you can see the color difference. This is definitely a shade darker when compared to this. So if you're closer to my skin tone, 3.05 is the way to go. Okay, finally, I finished blending out this foundation. Trust me guys, the struggle is real. It was a little bit difficult to blend out. I don't think I worked with a foundation that is this difficult to blend out in the recent past. But yeah, once it's blended out, you can see that it's just making my skin look flawless. It is a very, almost full coverage foundation. I did have to layer it pretty well. And talking about layering of this foundation. So this foundation sets really fast. Like, you know, first thing, it's difficult to blend out, like I said, but once you blend it out, it kind of dries down quickly. So when you try to layer, you know, more foundation on top, I feel like I had difficulty blending it out. So imagine this, like you have set your whole makeup with some powder, and on top you try to blend out, you know, a liquid product. It's going to be difficult, right? Because, you know, a liquid, you know, doesn't blend that easily on top of a powder. That's just how it felt like. So that's one thing I'm not crazy about. So with the one layer, I felt like it covered pretty well, but I could still see some of my acne spots peeking through. So it is full coverage, but not to a point where it's going to, you know, cover every blemish that you have on your face. So yeah, and layering doesn't work really well with this foundation. So if you want to layer this foundation, do it right away. Don't, you know, apply it on your entire face, then try to layer it, because, you know, it's not going to layer very well if you give some gap between each layer. I mean, it feels lightweight for a foundation that is this full coverage, but to be honest, I've had better first impressions on other full coverage foundations that I've tried in the past. I love my Lancome one, and the Pure one blends beautifully. That is also super full coverage. And of course the Clinique one. There are so many other full coverage foundations that I've had better first impressions on when compared to this one. So we'll see how it wears throughout the day. I mean, so far it looks okay. Not like, you know, this is not the best first impression I've ever had on a foundation, but let's see. I'm gonna try to give the foundation a benefit of the doubt and see how it wears throughout the day. But I will tell you, it is a matte foundation. If you have dry skin, I don't think you're gonna like this very much, because, you know, I had my Kiehl's SPF underneath, because of which I'm looking a little bit shiny, not because of this foundation. Not shiny, I want to say. You see this slight radiance, right? It's because of that Kiehl's SPF underneath. So, you know, I have pretty normal skin. My skin is not dry at all, and even I had difficulty blending out this foundation. So if your skin is dry, if you don't have that slip to your skin, this foundation might be a little bit difficult to blend out. Now I'm going to go off camera, apply the rest of my makeup. When I get back, I'm going to tell you guys how everything layered on top, so stay tuned. Hey guys, so I finished the rest of my makeup, which was pretty quick because, you know, the part that takes most of the time, the eye makeup, was already done. You know, my bronzer, blush, and even, you know, highlighter blended beautifully on top of this foundation. But I'm already noticing that wherever I layered the foundation to cover my acne spots, I can already see that, you know, it's caking up. And on top of that, I applied some concealer, obviously. And, you know, things are looking a little bit cakey in this area. But rest all, I think it's doing pretty good. It's actually doing a really good job covering my discoloration here. And I don't see any kind of transfer of this foundation. So like I said, it actually sets pretty quickly. That's the verdict so far. We'll see how it wears throughout the day. I'll see you all in the evening. Hey guys, I am back. Right now, it's 7 o'clock. And I've had this foundation on for... like what now? I think I started the wear test around 12. I don't remember. Anyways, it's been a good 7 to 8 hours since I've had this foundation on. And I'm here to share my final thoughts. First, I'm going to start off by saying, I mean, it is an okay foundation. I don't think this is the best I've ever tried. Because, you know, there are so many negative things about this, at least for me. Actually, this is not the first time I've tried this foundation. I think I tried this a couple of days before, and I have had the foundation on for about 6 to 7 hours the other day. I mean, I was just at home. You know, I was working from home. I thought, you know, why not I would try this one out. So on that day, I used a brush to blend out this foundation because, you know, with the beauty blender, I had already dotted it all over my face. So it was like, you know, getting really difficult for me to blend out with my beauty blender. So I used my brush to blend it out. And I noticed that on that day, within 3 hours, I started to notice that the foundation was looking cakey and heavy in this area. And it was, you know, looking very weird, especially where I have my pores. And the other day, again, I tried it. I just didn't like how it blended out. So I think I stopped using it at that point. But today, you know, I thought I would give it a fair shot, like applying my Kiehl sunscreen underneath, because, you know, that gives me like a good slip for the foundations to blend out, which it did today. Like I felt like the foundation blended out a lot better on top of that sunscreen. So it blended out fine. I feel like, you know, with the beauty blender, this foundation works a lot better when compared to brush. But being said that, you know, wherever I try to layer the foundation, I can still see that, you know, it's looking very cakey and weird. On my nose, especially on the tip here, it's looking very cakey. It's like gathering in a weird way. So I don't like that as well. Like I said in the beginning of the video, this foundation is not easy to blend at all. You have to work really hard. I mean, I get that it's a full coverage. It's going to be budge proof and all of that, which it is. Like, I feel like it's still on my skin. I mean, other than this area, everywhere else, it's holding pretty well. And one more good thing is that it doesn't transfer at all. Even though it's heavy coverage, it feels lightweight on the skin. It looks natural for a foundation that gives you almost full coverage, and it's not even cracking in my smile lines. I will give it that. But my point is, like, you know, I have other full coverage foundations in my collection. Like, I love the Lancome one, I love the Clinique one, I love the Pure one. Like, I have the Makeup Forever, Velvet Matte. There are like so many other full coverage foundations in my collection, which I love like a lot more than this one, because you know they blend out beautifully. They also look natural for a foundation that has like full coverage, and you know they just sit better on my skin when compared to this one. And if you have dry skin, I wouldn't recommend you try out this one. Like if you have combo oily skin types, maybe you can give this one out a try. But for me personally, I don't like it. Like, you know, it's not the best I've ever tried. But one more good thing is that this shade is like a good match for me. I mean, if it hadn't oxidized, it would have been light for my skin tone for sure. But since the foundation oxidizes a little bit, I feel like it matches my skin really well. As you can see, I didn't bring out any foundation onto my neck today, but you know, it's matching really well. So since the foundation has like, you know, really good coverage, it's covering all of my discoloration very well as well. I didn't have to use a color corrector underneath. But I feel like if I weigh both pros and cons, for me personally, this wouldn't be my top recommendation when it comes to a full coverage foundation. I hope, you know, that gives you a idea of how I feel about this foundation. Now, the better way to use this foundation would be if you have a face oil, you can mix that in with this foundation and use it. That might, you know, help the foundation blend better and, you know, work better. That's what I'm going to try and use this foundation the next time, because, you know, the shade is like a really good match. So I don't want to give up on it yet. So I'll use my Flower Beauty Elixir. It's a beauty oil. So I'm going to mix both of them together and see how it performs. But, you know, it's not necessary for everyone to go, you know, such a long length and try out this foundation, because you know I could recommend other high-end, like, you know, full coverage foundations that I really like. So yeah, that completes this review. I hope it was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and also give this video a thumbs up if you like it. I'll see you all in my next one. Bye.